Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to announce the third release on our very own proprietary record label, Tinnitus Classics. And I'm incredibly excited about this one. I mean, hugely excited because it represents a number of firsts for tinnitus. It's going to be our first recording of choral music, liturgical music, in fact, and it's by one of my very favorite baroque composers, Jan Dismos Zelenka, the second recording, only the second, of his Missa Circumcisionis Domini. Yes, the Mass in honor of the Circumcision of God, which is an actual feast day, believe it or not, in the Catholic Church. It occurs on New Year's Day, 8 days after the birth of Jesus, because as a nice Jewish boy, when he was 8 days old, he had a bris. And for that reason, of course, the work is also sometimes referred to as the Missa Brissa, as well as the Missa Circumcisionis. Now, the Missa Brissa, as I like to call it, was composed in 1728 in Dresden and first performed on New Year's Day, 1729. It's a marvelous, marvelous piece of music, as you can well imagine, and quite a special one given the circumstances, get it? Circumstances of the Circumcisionis. Wow. And so, it's been recorded once before, and I have to give credit to that recording. It's right here. It was on the Christophorus label, and it features the Dresden Boys Choir with the Dresden Cathedral Choir and the Staatskapelle Dresden under Conrad Wagner. And it's a very good performance. But here's the other first for Tinnitus Classics. Our performance is on authentic instruments with our very own authentic instrument ensemble and choir, Musica Urethra. They're miraculous. I mean, I found the very, very best period instrument people and put them together in this group, which they unanimously decided they wanted to be called Musica Urethra, perhaps in honor of the Missa Circumcisionis. I'm not exactly sure, but that was the name they chose. And the Musica Urethra Chamber Choir. They play entirely on period instruments or authentic replicas of period instruments, and they sound very, very authentic. Believe you me. The other thing that's interesting about Zelenka is that Zelenka was a vibrato guy. He notated vibrato with huge wavy lines over the parts he wanted extra vibrato. And as you can well imagine, the big moment, which occurs during the Et Incarnatus section of the Credo, is marked to be played with vibrato. And not only do I have the authentic period instrument groups for this Tinnitus Classics recording, but I restore the original part that Zelenka wrote. Usually he has 4 vocal soloists, but in this particular Mass, if you look closely at the manuscript, which you can find on IMSLP, by the way, the manuscript is available. It's scored for 4 vocal soloists plus a moil. And a moil, for those of you who don't know, is the rabbi who performs the circumcision. Now, it's very understandable that the moil part was omitted because, first of all, to use a moil in the performance of a Catholic Mass was, well, let's face it, it was unheard of. And to find a moil who would do it during a Catholic Mass was also unheard of. There was a real issue there. But Zelenka, who was nothing if not a maven for authenticity, included the part for the moil. And I happen to have found a very kindly gentleman, the Rabbi Zalman Schneierstein, who consented to participate in this performance of the Missa Circumcisionis. Now, you may well ask yourself, what exactly does the moil do during the Missa Circumcisionis? Well, it turns out that for the Missa Circumcisionis, Zelenka had designed a special percussion instrument, the Circumcisionium, of which only a description and a diagram exists in the archives of the Dresden Hofkapelle. Now, I have seen it, and the original was made by Rookers, the great harpsichord manufacturer, and I have designed a replica of the original Circumcisionium after the Rookers original, and I have it here, being a percussionist. And here it is, the Circumcisionis, which the Moyle plays during the Et Incarnatus, which is an unaccompanied trio for vocal soloists, and Circumcisionis. It makes quite the evocative sound, doesn't it? So as they're singing that Jesus was made man, the Moyle performs the appropriate ceremony on the Circumcisionis during the Missa Brissa. And this will be the only recording in which you can hear the work performed as Zelenka originally intended it to be performed. So if you do not have this recording of the Missa Circumcisionis on Christophorus, and you would like to hear how Zelenka actually intended it to be performed, you're going to have to purchase the version featuring the Musica Urethra Ensemble and Chamber Choir on Tinnitus Classics. So many reasons, folks, for us to keep on listening. So enjoy this performance. I know you'll like it as much as I did. Thank you, and take care.